Hello and welcome to the FilmSetGeek.com podcast. Interviews with experts across all disciplines of film production. Sponsored by Axis Grip Hungary, professional aerial filmography and stabilised rig and grip services. I'm Steve Collison and I'm delighted to be joined today by Peter Schueller, who's going to tell us about his role as a film and TV dialect coach, having worked on productions such as CBC's X Company and Atomic Blonde. Welcome, Peter.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So I think it's important to mention that you are not only dialect coaching that you do, but you're also a film and TV actor as well in your own right.
That is correct. Yeah, I actually did that before I got into dialect coaching.
Very good. So we'll talk about that after we've covered the dialect coaching piece. So
Sure.
So tell us then, first of all, so you've been doing the dialect coaching for how long?
I'd say about 3 years now, the dialect coaching part. Mm-hmm.
Great. And perhaps could you tell us how did you get into it?
Well, should I say a little bit about my backstory about how I got started in being qualified to be a dialect coach? My passion has always been singing and classical singing. So even back in high school, I would have different languages in diction classes and pronunciation and all of those things. I'd have private teachers that would take me through, for example, well, I'll say German in this case because it was German. And they would take me through word by word and tell me the rules and what the sounds are and how to create them, what the phonemes are, how to move your mouth in a certain way to sound like a native speaker. Because especially in classical music, if you want to have an international career, the pronunciation has to be flawless, or else the people don't believe it. So anyway, fast forward at least 10 years of this intensive diction work, studying IPA, which is the International Phonetic Alphabet, and taking even just speaking diction classes in college. I gained a mastery, if you will, about German, and German in particular, actually, because my parents would speak German when I was young at home all the time too. So like the cadence, the melodies of the language kind of sunk in, and the unique sounds that if you sometimes they say that if you're not a native speaker and you haven't heard a particular sound before age 9, you actually can't hear that sound anymore. So you can't create it unless you have these specific rules on just how to make your muscles do what needs to be done in order to create that sound. And then you don't hear it, but you're still making at least somewhat similar of a sound for that. What else did I want to say? Did I answer your question?
You could say you're a strong authority on the dialect, on the language, on the accent.
Absolutely, and I remember what I was going to say now. Through teaching, actually, because now I've become, after college, a voice teacher as well, and teaching my students those same diction, those same pronunciation rules have really helped cement what they are in my own brain, and makes me very confident in telling other people how to make those same sounds. And of course, being an actor, it's part of the actor's job to have a bunch of accents, in their back pocket, and there's books and literature written about how to do that. Whether it be German or Irish or Cockney or British, as an actor, it's your job to know those things. Sorry, getting away from the dialect.
No, that's good. That's good. So great. So this is your training. This is the experience you've had, and as I say, this is what makes you an authority in being able to, specifically with the German, have this skill set to be able to understand it, know what's required, and therefore to teach it. So then, how did that then move into getting involved with dialect coaching in the film and TV business?
Okay. So, like I said, it happened fairly recently, about 3 years ago. My girlfriend at the time actually had an actress gig on a TV show, and they were looking for some sort of linguist to help with the actors. And she offered me, saying, "Oh, my boyfriend can do German for sure," because of course she had heard me teaching my students, and with my parents, and I'd even helped her with some German before. And so they called me in as a substitute, actually, because I don't know what happened to their main German dialect coach. But she had to leave the production for some reason, and I did my thing. I really actually didn't have anyone telling me what I needed to do, so I just took my own initiative, and if I heard something that wasn't correct, I would just jump in. I would correct it the way that I thought that it should be corrected, and even giving I think a little bit more information than they were used to. For example, there was one actor who couldn't get the U sound, which is the U umlaut. And the way that you create it is by making an E with your tongue. So if you say E, and then you make an U with your lips, and you get U. So that kind of direction, I mean, I guess that's a little bit of a trick, but they really have only had those people that would come in and say, repeat after me. And then if you can't do it, they'll be like, no, that's wrong. Whereas this is something mechanical that you can actually do to create that sound. So after a few days on the set, the producers liked me well enough to keep me on for the end of that season. And they called me back for the next season.
And this was X Company.
This was X Company,
CBC,
yeah. So there were 3 seasons in total. So I came in about halfway through the first.
So World War II.
From a Canadian aspect.
From the Canadian aspect, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is based, I mean, set in Germany. A large part of it set in Germany.
I have to say, for the most part, it was actually set in France.
Okay, sure. But
with resistance.
Yeah, but with many German characters.
I mean, all the military was German. It was the resistance was the French, and in the end, of course, yes, they went to Berlin in Germany as well.
Yeah.
So
then it sounds like you were bringing something that perhaps certainly on this production they hadn't seen before, a style of dialect coaching which they hadn't experienced perhaps.
I mean, I would gather. I hope so. I mean, that's the way that I teach. I'm a very specific technical teacher, and I like to say exactly what's happening. Like, what is your soft palate doing? Where are you directing the resonance? Or what are you? I mean, what is your lip shape? Like those kind of things. They matter.
Yes.
And even if you're, like I said, not a native speaker in a language, you can make someone else sound that way through this knowledge, which I think was my expertise and why they kept keeping me back. I mean, I did 3 seasons with them, or 2.5. Yeah. So
that's great. And specifically, what we're talking about when we say dialect coaching, that is, it's the accent. Is that what we're talking about?
For a foreign language, yes. They only wanted me to correct the pronunciation, sometimes the emphasis for meaning. When I did get actors that didn't understand what the words were, or even if the translation had kind of flips, the grammar kind of flips words around sometimes. So even if it's a literal translation, the emphasis or the stress might come on a different word in the German than it would in English, for example. And therefore, again, that's my job to say, actually, this is the noun and this is the word that you need to say. So there would be things like that as well. And I mean, I wouldn't want to say those are acting choices. That's just how you would pronounce the cadence, I guess. Like I said, the melody of the language, and then you can do whatever you want with that, whatever your intention would like to do.
And by the sounds of it, and then so dialect coaching really is a different discipline to perhaps for translating or interpreting. It's really around the sound and the accent and the cadence.
A dialect
emphasis.
Coach is strictly on set work, and to ask them to translate at the same time. Especially again if they're not a native speaker, is very difficult because they're already doing their job, which is listening to the actors and ready to jump in and listening and analyzing the sound. So if there are let me jump backwards just a second, because as a translator or interpreter or whatever, something like that, with just the language, there's many different ways to say many different things. I mean, you know that in English, I mean, for just saying a simple yes, you can say that 6 different ways. Someone who is not involved in the production per se would have no idea which one would be the correct one on the spot. And it's the same thing with the dialect coach. If they ask me to translate something into German or to interpret something from the German, I would be at a loss because I wouldn't know which definition they wanted.
Sure.
And again, not being a German speaker from birth, even though I have conversational German, I would never feel confident that what my translations would be like 100% correct.
Sure.
In a native perspective, from a native perspective.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a challenge, I would say, in that aspect. But I felt very confident if they gave me what they wanted, I could make it sound right.
Yeah.
So
excellent. And in terms of X company, then, who were you doing the voice coach, the dialect coaching for? So was this for in the entire cast? Was it for lead characters? Was it for day players? For smaller talking roles?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Everyone. For it was a kind of a different experience. I'd say mostly I was working with day players. The 1 day roles that have like 2 sentences or something simple like that, but again had no knowledge of how to pronounce German.
Yeah.
So I would work with them on the day for an hour or so, and then I would jump in on set and
this is English. This is talking English with a German accent, predominantly.
For the first 2 seasons, it was both.
Right.
I would actually coach them on German language as well, which is where I came from. But also English with a German accent as well. And then the 3rd season, it was just English with a German accent.
So you're talking about international actors who are probably with the German those speaking in German. With script with dialogue in German, they would have been German actors. Is that
for the most part, yes, except for the day players.
Even in that sense, you are giving specific guidance on their dialect, which is aligned with what the production requires.
Absolutely. Sometimes it was interesting, like, because there is a standard Hochdeutsch or High German performance pronunciation, if you would say that. And sometimes we got actors from different regions, and even if they were both native speakers, I would be asked sometimes by the producers to make one of the actors sound more consistent with the other actor.
Yeah, okay.
So that was interesting as well.
So that's a part of it, and then the other part of it is obviously having international actors who are speaking in English, but it needs to be with a German accent.
Absolutely, yeah. And I gotta say, for those people, some of whom had never even heard German before, it was a lot of the physical manipulation of what they had to do to make the sounds.
Yeah.
So they were basically just, I wouldn't say repeating, because not repeating, but just like copying the sounds and had no idea what it meant or anything like that. But it sounded pretty good.
Yeah,
so.
It sounded convincing. So,
yeah, exactly.
And then perhaps could you tell us a little bit about the difference in the process that it might involve as a dialect coach in working with, let's say, a lead actor versus a day player who you perhaps that both in terms of time frame and in terms of the actual process.
Sure. Let me start with the lead actors. Yeah. The lead actors I would work with as well. It would be a much more thorough process, I have to say. They would get the scripts farther in advance, of course. They'd have their table read and everything. Not to say that it wouldn't change sometimes, but they would have a week or 2 to prepare their lines. So if they would request my help, I would be able to come and work with them for however long they wanted or however many days they wanted before their actual shooting day, in order to get it really fluid, really natural, and allow them to put the type of performance that they wanted to put into it without having to worry about the language.
Yeah.
So from both of our aspects, that was much more comfortable.
And that would be, I mean, a good example then is that would potentially be an English speaking actor
for the most part, yes,
or even a German speaking in English.
Yeah, that was a very tricky thing. Actually, I have to say, just to mention real quick, that It was difficult actually to work with the Germans the native Germans that had to speak English
Right.
with a German accent.
Right.
Because I understand also from an actor's perspective that they've actually worked really hard to get rid of their accent and either have a British or have an American accent
When speaking English.
And so it was sometimes interesting when I would give some notes on how to sound German to the Germans. But of course, sometimes it was even requested by the producers. So I was in full authority to do that kind of thing. Sorry, getting back to your previous question. From the mid-level to the day players, actually, for the most part, I would only be on the day I would get to work with them. Sometimes I would be called, my call time would be with the actors I was working with that day. So sometimes they would come to me rushing in a panic, like, I don't know anything about this, let's work on it now until I go on. And then I would work with them for a couple hours actually, because you have to rush. And sometimes I actually didn't even get to see them before their first take. So I had to give them notes even after the first take.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's always just really stressful for me and for them, because they weren't thinking about the language as an actor. Yeah. And now all of a sudden they have to correct their pronunciation while doing the scene, and it can be very stressful. And sometimes they would even say, I'm sorry, I can't deal with it. And which I would respect, and I wouldn't bother them again. But the more preparation, the better. So it was kind of unfortunate, because it's very hard to get a foreign language in your, not even just in your ear, but in your muscle memory in a couple hours, like before you actually have to do it in performance with all the anxiety and the pressure that comes with that. It's very difficult.
So. Incredible. Mm-hmm. So then in terms of actually on the set and your on-set experience, so typically when do you get, are your call times aligned with the general call time for the whole day? If it's going to be, you're needed for a particular day or multiple days, are you right there at the start, or how does it work?
It depends. For the most part, yes, you're correct. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I was there the whole day. Every once in a while, they would have I'd only need to be there for a day player that had the last scene, and then I would be my call time would be much later in the day. So that was lucky for me. But for the most time, I mean, if an actor had a 4 a.m. call, I'd be there at 4 a.m. Or actually, my favorite would be the overnights. Those were kind of fun, actually.
And are you where are you located on set? Are you sat with the actors? I have to say, short answer is out of the way. Sure. Not with the director. For the most part, I would kind of hang back in Video Village, which is where the monitors were, and then I would have my headset on, and then I could see also their mouth as they were speaking and listen to it at the same time. Some actors actually would request that I kind of hang out in their area, just so that when they're going over their lines, they can call me over really quickly for a question. If they were very confident and stuff, I'd kind of just hang back, watch everything, be somewhere within reach. You know, like if anyone was to call with me, I could run onto set in 10 seconds, or less. But aside from that, there was kind of a little flexibility. And you mentioned about authority then. So where does are there lines drawn? I mean, if you see something as an actor and that it's not going according to how you discuss with them or your expectations, is there what do you do? Is there a protocol? Do you?
I mean, I think respect and communication is the bottom line. If I ever had any questions like that, I would go straight to the producers and ask what I needed to do in this particular instance. I'll start at the beginning. My first day on the job, like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing. So every time there was a cut, or every time, I could just sneak in there and talk to the actor, I did. And then I would run out as soon as rolling or anything like that, or as soon as I was happy. But every once in a while, I would get those actors that would resist me, and I wouldn't want to pressure them, because and
there's a lot going on, right?
I mean what they say is the performance trumps everything. Absolutely. So if they have bad pronunciation but an amazing performance, doesn't matter.
Sure.
Which is why I would say if they told me I needed to leave them alone, I left them alone.
Sure.
However, like if someone was just repeatedly getting it wrong and wasn't listening to me, I would go to the producers and be like, how would you like me to proceed? Should I take them to a side? Should I work with them more separately, or should I just let it drop?
Yeah.
And then they would make that decision for me. If I had like it's always a little bit touchy with the leads because, like I said about the performance, I don't want to bother them, and it's a distraction to have me always coming in and correcting their language.
Yeah.
If it was a lead, actually, sometimes I would get like pre-authorization. I would go to the producers and be like, okay, this is number one guy on the set.
Yeah.
Can I just go talk to him and fix it? And for the most part, it's yes. Sometimes they say, well, you have to ask him or have to ask her, like see what they want. So it's all about the communication so that there's no misunderstandings or anything like that.
But there can, and once you've established that, there can be circumstances where you would, they've done a take and you see it and there's an opportunity for you to step on, have a quick chat. That also takes place. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So. And I mean, sometimes I'm requested to come in as well. I mean, sometimes I've let something slide for various reasons, and the director will say, actually, can you make this sound different? And of course I would do that, and it would work. Or the producer would say, this doesn't quite match up, can you fix that? And then I would do that. So it's a collaborative effort from everyone, and it's really... I guess there can't be too much ego involved.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So,
very good. So then you've so it sounds like X Company's been has been a big part of it, but you've also done a couple of other productions. So I think you said Atomic
I just recently did Atomic Blonde,
which is hitting the cinemas right now. I think,
actually,
right?
Yeah. I didn't have as much work to do with that one, and I actually stayed with just a couple of actors. That needed or requested actually my help. A lot of it is in terms of the pre-work is requested by the actor, which gets approved by the producers, and then I go in and then I work a lot. So so the work that I was hired to do for Atomic Blonde was great. Yeah,
and how does the work come? So you've got an agent, or how does it? Because you're an actor. Obviously, we'll talk about that. But you're an actor as well, and it's the same.
It's
relationship.
Yes, it isn't. It's an agent, but it's not. I mean, it's not specifically for that because there's not quite enough work I think going around right now for that. So if the production requires someone, I'll get a call, but it's not like my like I don't have an agent just for
understood.
that.
Sure.
So
but there's so you've got you have an agency which supports you and other actors, performers, different skill sets. They have a relationship with the production companies, and it sounds like but that relationship is continuing that they have with the companies, and
absolutely,
and you're a guy that they can come to.
Oh yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And and what would you say? What's your favorite bit about the process of time?
I think
what makes you feel good.
What it comes from being a teacher now, also for over 10 years now, is I really like to see it when people get it.
Yeah.
When they change, when it gets better, it's just such a rewarding feeling. It's like if they come in and I can't understand a word, and then I work with them and it gets better and it gets better and it gets better, and even if it's just the last take, they get it once. It's so satisfying. I love it. I love that feeling when they finally get it. And I mean, even sometimes the producers would come over to me and they'd be like, "Yeah." I'd be like, that's just a feeling of a job well done, I think, is my favorite part.
Yeah.
So
good. And do you have any? Is it? And it's just German that you.
I've had diction training as well in Italian and French.
Yeah.
And of course, U.S. English. But I really feel the most comfortable with German.
Yeah, and I mean, I was going to say, if someone asked you, would you do it? Would you step up for, let's say, English American, French, or Italian. Did I get everything right?
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
If they are, but what I'm getting from this is probably that it actually depends on the production, and if you would go along, they would see what you can do, and
Right.
if it fits with the production,
Yeah,
then that's
and,
something.
and again, communication and honesty. I would never ever go in there saying I can do those things.
Yes.
I would tell them what I can do.
Yeah, sure.
Because the whole system is based on trust, and I don't know if there's any aspiring actors or dialect coaches out there. I just have to say, if you lie about anything, you will get found out,
Sure.
and then you'll never work again.
Yeah.
So you say, yeah, I've had Italian diction coaching in college and when I was working on art songs, and I feel confident that I can communicate that, but that's the extent of it. Then at least they know that's where you stand.
Yeah, and I think that from what it sounds like is that and it's really interesting because you got brought in because they needed someone, and then but then it turned out. I mean, and clearly you are an authority in this area with the German, with the training that you've had.
Mm-hmm.
But it also fitted very specifically with what they were looking for as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And to the point where even you were giving this dialect coaching to Germans, but that was actually it's not necessarily even about that. It's about going what you were able to offer is specifically what fit with the production.
Right.
So,
I mean, it was specifically the job description.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, if they want a translation, I mean, even for the art, it has to have the specific intentions.
Yeah.
And if the dialect coach is not involved in the creative process or any of the production process, how is that person supposed to know what they want?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Very good. And so, is there anything on the horizon at the moment, or is it usually very quick turnaround between
this is
call up and production?
super quick
Yeah.
turnaround?
Yeah. So you
I
don't
have
know.
some acting things, but no dialect coach.
Yeah, and
coaching.
just for now. So then, as we mentioned before, you've also been doing some TV and film acting over the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
So be very interested to know a little bit about that as well. And as I see on IMDb, then you've got around about 10, 11, 12 credits for film and TV work with featured roles.
Right.
So perhaps tell us a little bit about how you got into that. What the transition? Because you have a theatre background.
Well,
More of a
yeah.
theatre
I mean,
background.
I have to start with the theater, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on stage since I was 5 years old, singing and dancing and acting, mostly musical theater.
Yeah.
Then I did some professional classical music, which turned into my passion for college. Got my first gig at the San Francisco Opera, which was just like amazing experience. And then, after college, expanded, from classical music into musical theater, and also at the same time straight plays, and trying to break into film and television as well. So, doing the submissions, sending out headshots, resumes, all of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Doing that for a few years, constantly gigging on stage, of course, because that's what I did. I think until you break into the film and theater, or film and TV, excuse me, it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But once you do that, so like 3-4 years ago, it just seemed like things came together, and I started booking one-day roles. You say yes sir, and that's it. And it sort of starts to build on that. If you start to get a reputation for being reliable, they start to call you in for bigger roles and cooler stuff.
Yeah, and looking at your credits, so you've been in, you were in Ridley Scott's The Martian, Ron Howard's Inferno, and I think there's a film we can't talk about which you've just been in, which is going to be coming up, and then TV work in X Company, so as an actor as well.
Yeah, that's
as
right.
dialect coach, and The Alienist, Emerald City. So so quite a trip over the last few years.
Yeah, it's been quite a broad spectrum of roles as well.
But you still keep a toe in the theatre.
I do actually, because I missed it. That's where I was born and bred. So I actually started my own theatre company, emphasizing musical theatre. Although we've done some straight plays as well. It's called ESO Theatricals.
ESO,
and it's going on its first official year actually in July. So we just finished our first official year. We did a few productions under my name, like an independent contractor, in order to get the momentum running. So it's brand new, and so there's lots of challenges, which I hope will be sorted out in the next few coming years. Hopefully more focusing on musical theatre only as well.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well then, thank you so much indeed then for joining us and coming in to talk to us today.
It was my pleasure.
This has been Steve Collison and Peter Schueller on the FilmSetGeek.com podcast. Thank you for listening and goodbye.